A Dunlop mast climber must only be installed, dismantled, or moved by a Dunlop trained and certified installer. There are many ways that a Dunlop mast climber machine can be installed. Sometimes it is erected on a sidewalk bridge, particularly in New York City, where it must be set on the top. Other times, an opening may need to be spanned. Here is an example where the load was spread over a wider space on the bottom. This is an example of how to bridge if the sidewalk is vaulted or there was some obstruction. Here is an example of dividing a bridge so that the underneath access point, a manhole cover, is not obstructed by the machine, and that the machine is installed at its optimum position. This is a standard tie system. We use Schedule 40 tie pipe and regular scaffolding clamps. Each tie is secured to the building in a variety of different ways. Here we see it with a masonry anchor. Where the masonry anchor system is used, we advise conducting a pull test to ensure that the tie is secure and it will sustain a load of 3,000 pounds for each of the tie attachments. As a safe working practice, we recommend pull testing a minimum of 25% of the ties. There are many other methods and means of tying to the building, one of which is welding a clip to the structural steel and putting an angle on the building tying back to the mast section. Here is a tie system going through a window back down to the slab. This is an expansion bolt which should be tested, but it is a convenient method of tying to the building so that you don't obstruct any of the work done by the contractor, and it allows the machine to be put up on the center of the window line with the tie going down through the window to the slab. Here we show a standard base configuration with the first mast tied to the building with 3 tie pipes coming in at a 90-degree basis, with the mast section centrally located on dunnage beams to spread the load. If the mast climber is being installed without base chassis, it is imperative that the first mast section be tied and the machine be lifted onto the base mast and held in place with either a crane or a forklift, while the third mast section from the ground is tied back to the building. Once that second tie is secure and tested, then the mast section may be released from the crane or a forklift. Each machine comes with 2 lifting eyes on the main platform, which surrounds the mast sections. This allows the lifting of the 20-foot mast climber securely, and when raised, it's in a level and evenly balanced position. When finished, the installation crew should insert the 3 guard fences and ensure that each machine displays the 18-point safety checklist, which states the load charts that are allowed in each installation. Here is the correct way to lift the machine off a chassis. 2 straps are needed, with the straps picking the top of the mast so that the platform is level, and at each corner you need to have a tie rope so that you always keep the mast climber in a secure and level fashion. The machine is perfectly balanced from its pick point before you actually lift it. The power cable must be removed and disconnected. Should there be any materials on the deck, you need to make sure that the fences are installed in the machine so that nothing can fall off. Here you will see that the platform is being centered over the base mast, which is tied to the building. 4 bolts are already lined up and placed at the corners, so when the load is lowered, you can carefully drift the mast section over and lower it onto the base mast. Once the bolts are finger tight, use an 1 1/8" ratchet drive with open-ended wrench to secure and tighten the bolts. Then the power is connected. With a hydraulic arm, the mast sections can be lifted from the back of a truck straight onto the machine. The hydraulic arm is used only for installation and dismantling of the mast sections. Here the installation crew is checking that the mast sections are square and level, and the tie pipes are installed before the straps for the crane are removed, once the 3 tie pipes have been installed, checked, and tested. Each mast section can be loaded from the ground with the use of an hydraulic lifting device which is on the machine. The installation crew is demonstrating how to lift the mast section, attaching it to the hydraulic arm. which will lift the mast system to the desired height and location over the mast section immediately beneath it. The mast section is lowered, 4 bolts are inserted, and once the bolts are in and finger tight, the boom arm is lowered to allow the bolts to be fully tightened. The load is released on the boom arm and the strap must be removed before the equipment can be operated. While installing the equipment, if you leave the machine at any time or the installation is completed, you must install the top and bottom limit stops and the mast guard fences, so in the event anyone uses the machine, it won't go down too far or go over the top of the top mast section. The installer then needs to check whether the limit switch is engaged with the bottom stop. The installation crew is shown installing an 8-foot extension using a spud wrench to line up the bolt holes. The 3/4 inch grade 8 bolt is inserted from the rear toward the installer, so it's easier to tighten. Once the platform extension has been installed, the crew will install the 4-foot fences surrounding it and the small end fence for the planking area. The outrigger is installed from the front of the unit and secured with a gravity drop pin. Place the outrigger in the socket before you align the mast climber with the elevation. The installation crew will also test the centrifugal override brakes. By standing on the motors and pushing each lever away, the machine will descend safely at no greater speed than 26 feet per minute. Both levers must be pushed away to activate it. One lever will not allow movement. When descending, be careful not to run through the bottom stop since there's no power. Each platform comes with 2 110-volt power outlets providing 20 amps for power tools. In addition, you have one outlet for 230 volts 3-phase 20 amps and also a separate supply for larger tools such as welding machines where you have 230 volts 3-phase 50 amp power supply. There is a backup top limit switch which when the machine runs to the very peak causes the limit arm to ride over the top of the mast, automatically cutting off the power. There are limit switches on sensor for the top and bottom, reinforcing the 100% backup safety system. The control panel can be opened easily with a coin, and inside, the safety manual, a load chart, and operating instructions can be found. Each manual has a load chart and our 18-point safety program that we recommend be shared with each person who works on the machine. The mast climber has a detachable pendant control which at the end of the workday can be removed. Plus, if the platform supervisor sees any unsafe conditions, the pendant control should be removed and not returned until the unsafe conditions are rectified. The control panel is fitted with an alarm system which warns not only the workers on the machine, but those in the vicinity and in the building that the machine is in motion. The installation crew is demonstrating how the planks are placed on the outriggers. We advise a 2-plank system for the typical installation. The outriggers will extend to a 4-plank system should it be required, and the safety fence will be the appropriate length to protect the workers. Finally, place the yellow safety top mast which has no rack at the very top. This will ensure that the mast climber cannot go over the last mast section. Once you have completed the installation, check all limit switches, the emergency stop button, and the centrifugal brakes. Visually inspect that all fences are in place. Ensure that all warning signs and load charts are legible and that the safety manual is inside the control panel. You must then train anyone who is going to work on the Dunlopmastclimber how to operate the equipment and review all 18 points of our safety guidelines. You should provide training certificates to each competent person and keep a copy on site with the Site Safety Supervisor. Lastly, have the end user sign that he has inspected the equipment and confirm that the mast climber is in a safe and usable condition.
Thank you for watching our video. And remember, your safety is our concern.